Welcome right back to Spinner Rack. How is it rocking, everybody? Today we're going to be doing a little different thing. We're going to be talking about what? Mary Lou's Legend. Yes, Legend is a book that I recently read that I got to say, I was very surprised. Now, of course, we all do a lot of reading because we're comic book fans, but reading novels and stuff, I like to try different genres of novels. I still read Western, mystery, sci-fi. But let me try this. This is a YA novel that was done by Mary Lou. And she basically said it was based off of Les Miserables, the conflict between the two protagonists, Javert and Valjean. So, look, I'm taking a look at this stuff, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to read it. It's probably one of those other YA books. It's the same thing. It's a retread. It's a dystopian future. And there's nothing to enjoy, because I've read this like 5 or 6 times already. But guess what? It was very good. I was shockingly surprised. Yes, a lot of similar tropes going on here and there, but they were all familiar and all all expected. Like I've always said before, you want to give the audience something a little different, but basically the same thing, It doesn't have to be something, everybody wants the mac and cheese with cheese. Everybody wants mac and cheese. Sometimes you make it out of the box. Sometimes you make it homemade. Sometimes you put a scramble little crab, breadcrumbs on top. Sometimes you do something else on the side, but it's basically the same thing. That's what you want. And so this book basically delivers. The story is basically set in a future post-apocalyptic world, dystopian world, where you have in the state that we're talking about, the state that they're basically in, is called, I believe, the Republic. And the Republic basically is centered in Los Angeles, which has been flooded. It seems to have been flood prone. It seems to hit by a tsunami or something like that. And it's you have different neighborhoods. There's some very well off and some very poor. And at the same time, there's an ongoing plague that keeps coming back and around, which affects particularly the poor sections of this particular republic or particular city of Los Angeles. And at the same time, the rich have been able to inoculate themselves, or the ruling class. And so the protagonist, the main protagonist is Day. His name is Daniel, and June. June is from the upper class, the military class that runs the republic, and it's run by a dictator called I believe the Elector, who constantly gets reelected, over and over again. And so it's a police state. They basically tell people from the very beginning that we are fighting the colonies in a perpetual war that never seems to end. So, once again, it's one of these stories where you don't know what the other side is doing. You're only learning part of it. And of course, as you start reading the series, you start finding out much more than you initially thought. Here we have the character Day, who's a wanted criminal. It's only like 15 years old. Basic thing with all these war criminals, with these YA novels. 15 years old. The other protagonist is June. Protagonist, antagonist, you got to read and figure out what it is. They both grow up in this society. She's on the very upper end of the military elite, and she is a genius. She scored like 1,500, like whatever the highest score on the SAT is, she scored it. While Day is this ultra criminal that no one can catch. The Republic, he's not been doing anything where he kills or harms or anything, but he's been damaging the Republic by attacking their their airships, causing vandalism, making them look bad. So these guys, they're trying to look for him, but they can't get him. He's basically living in the gutters, in the sewer system. At the same time, he's making money. But here, the story starts off where he's looking out for his family. He's afraid that they're going to get the plague, and what the consequences of them getting the plague is. Because if you are a plague family in the poor section, you basically end up dying or being taken off by the military to test or whatever. We don't know for sure. But again, I don't want to give much up, but I just got to say it was an excellent, very interesting novel, very fast pace. The characters are lucid. It's just not only June and Day. There's also other characters that that work with them and come out. The secondary characters are pretty good. And I think I'm going to continue with the series. And I think anybody out there, particularly the comic guys, if you're interested in reading something, that's a little bit more meatier, of course you don't have the art in it, but I think this is sometimes one thing you need to get into. So I'm going to try to do a bit more book reviews, because I want to basically, open up the word of the genre. I mean, we're not talking about, when we read comics, it's much more. People assume it's just, oh, you're watching pictures. No, it's not. It's, you like reading because you want to enjoy another world. You want to get involved in that. You want to see whether you can make it, the possibilities is possible here. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people forget. Comic books is just another medium that we utilize to entertain ourselves. Novels is another one. TV, radio, audiobooks. These are all different things. And so I got to say, Mary Lou, kudos to this story. I don't think you're going to be disappointed, and the characters are lively and enjoyable. And most likely this looks to me, this book was written to be a movie, so you may see it again. Probably will be a better adaptation than some of the other YA dystopian fantasies that we've seen in the past. I've got to give you the reason for the story. So the essence of the story is the day that, I guess I'm not giving away much, but June's brother dies. And so they set June, who's a genius, out to get him. That's all she concentrates on. They're saying it's day that somehow harmed him or killed him. And so June goes out with all her faculties to try and capture him, something the Republic and all the adults and all the technology and everything was not able to do. And Day, unbeknownst to him, doesn't realize what's happening. So it's pretty interesting, but it's how do you have two characters? One character who's not trusting per se, but a character in Day who's he's world weary, but he has a moral code that he lives by. And then you have June, who is out to get the murderer of her brother. What happens when you bring together these two people, and whether or not they can actually coexist or not. Can you forgive someone who's killed your family, and the vice versa? Can you work with somebody who represents the evil the evil dictatorship, the evil status quo that you can't live, that's oppressing you and your family and your friends? So yeah, this was pretty interesting. Of course, it's not as heavy as I'm making it out to be, but that's just basically the dynamic. So spin a rack out.